Transferable skills.
From Cackle Media, this is Transferable Skills. I'm Noah Mishkin. Today's guest is Karen Peditto, who shares her skills journey from photojournalism into farming. This is one of a couple experiences I had being able to interview a spouse of a previous guest. The previous guest in this case is Karen's husband, Mike Peditto, who is episode number 52 on this very podcast, which I'll link in the show notes. I hope you enjoy. Karen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
It's pretty early in the morning. It's not quite like getting up at 4 a.m. and driving a tractor, but it's not dissimilar.
Yeah. So usually I get to work at 8:30. That's kind of when our schedule starts for the day. So that's the nice part of the farm I work on is I'm not up at 4 a.m. Harvesting wheat or anything.
Right. That's a very reasonable farm life.
Yes.
We still have daylight savings time for people like you.
Yes. I know.
If you don't mind, just let's run through your career. The beginning, what were you doing? Let's talk about some of that, and we will make our way into what you're doing now.
Yeah, I graduated high school in 2008, and at that point, we were still telling high school graduates to follow their dreams. Sillily enough, but so I went to college for photojournalism, graduated with a bachelor's degree in photojournalism and a minor in global cultural studies. I wanted to travel and take pictures and be famous for taking cool pictures. I wanted, as everyone in the photojournalism department did, I wanted to work for National Geographic and just, be featured in the magazines and have my photos win awards and just be traveling all the time. Unfortunately, National Geographic never called me, which was weird. Well, and when I was in college, smartphones were just becoming a thing, but in my 4 years, access to technology just changed drastically. So it's I started college, it's photojournalists are still a thing because we need them. And then by the time I was done with college, it's well, everybody has a camera in their pocket, and just news outlets are relying on just normal people to take pictures for them.
That's a wild time to be going through, especially your program in photojournalism, as you described. Was it 2007 or 8, the first iPhone comes out, and
yeah,
that changes everything. What was it like being in school for photojournalism when this changeover? You started from the time you started college, nobody had smartphones because they didn't exist. And
right.
The time you graduate, everyone's got a smartphone. What was that like?
Yeah, including myself. Even it was either my freshman or sophomore year, the professors were everything's changing, all this new technology is coming out. These, fancy cameras are more accessible to people. People are just have more access to the equipment than ever before. And so what the landscape is going to look like in 3 or 4 years is going to be very different than what previous graduates have experienced. And I was kind of okay,
Skepticism.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was always kind of they're saying it over and over and over again. And I was sure. Okay.
I can understand if you're in the tech sector and you're talking about the hardware, you're talking about the software. I can understand if you are straight up photography major and you talk about, the camera itself. But as a photojournalist major, was the conversation getting into more the philosophy of the work and talking about the accessibility of having a camera always on you and how that might change photojournalism and documentarian?
Yeah, because it just all of a sudden, and we still see that today, everybody's a photographer, everybody's a photojournalist. At that point, news outlets were using shitty camera phone pictures that random people took because that person was there and got the image, and she's well, we have an image,
right.
Whether or not it's good doesn't really matter, which is kind of upsetting as well.
Yeah, it is. But at the same time, would you rather a grainy image of something, or would you rather them not having an image at all and just talking about the story? I think I know the answer. I think I guess it's a personal preference, and maybe to some people it doesn't matter at all. But for me, I guess I'd rather a grainy, shaky video because you see that, and it hasn't changed. This is almost 20 years later, and those images, while they have gotten a lot better with sensors, you
Hmm.
still get pretty bad images and videos submitted by people who were present and witness to something. And it's like you use it in photojournalism all the time. It's
Yeah.
acceptable today.
Yeah. And it's just, on the one hand, it's kind of cool. Like, no matter what, someone can get videos or images of something that's happening. So it's kind of just like the world, society is contributing to like our access to information, but also puts the people who studied this, like, what do we do now? We
Do you
we work on a farm. That's what we do.
was that the first naturally that's
Obviously.
the natural progression.
Yeah.
Um, it sort of mirrors exactly what's happening now with AI, emerging technology
Hmm.
of generative AI that is replacing maybe not most jobs, but certainly a lot of some of the work within those jobs. And that was a similar. You have somebody who's saying, "Well, I've got a phone, therefore I'm a photographer." But I guess
Yes.
philosophically, the question is, you know, what makes for someone to be a quote unquote qualified photojournalist today? Like if I go on vacation with my family and I document it with my iPhone, does that make me an unprofessional but still like an amateur photojournalist?
Right. Like, I think there's just like there's so much gray area. I honestly think like the college I went to, they don't even offer that as a major anymore.
That's a shame.
I know. It's
Because
like
because it's not just about
rude.
like how to use your camera. That's
Hmm.
probably my assumption. Please correct me because I didn't study photojournalism. You did, but I assume how to use your camera physically and technically is a very small part of it. It's about storytelling. It's about like sort of the
Yes.
ethics
Yes.
and what are the expectations and
Oh, yeah.
how do you insert yourself but not get in the way. So
Yeah.
I don't see a world where that learning is not important.
Yeah. I mean, just yeah, thinking about the classes I took outside of like instructional like photography, photojournalism classes, it was like, yeah, I took a class on media law and ethics. Like we took these classes, I had to take a regular like print journalism class or like three because it all ties together and that's what makes the difference between trained media and normal people. She's like, I know when people have the expectation of privacy and like I'm not supposed to take pictures of them. But like, does everybody like know that or think about that? Like, meh, probably not.
Well, in the era of like TMZ,
Yeah.
like they know it, but are they always respectful of it?
No. No.
Not to shame TMZ. I mean, we live in a society that likes to look down on that kind of photojournalism and journalism in general, but
Hmm.
also thrives on the content that they put out. Like
Yes.
we like sort of ask for it, but then shame them when they do it.
Yeah, we're very voyeuristic as a society, and I think it's just at a weird point right now where we have access to like everything, and it's just like where do we draw the line? Where do we stop?
Right. When you said before how everyone's got a camera in their pocket with their phone, and therefore like
Yeah.
almost every scenario can be captured, and that is true. And then you think about also on top of that, the amount of security cameras, whether it's CCTV or like cloud-based, consumer grade security cameras that everyone has on their doorbell and around their house now, and sometimes in their house or looking out onto the street. And so almost everything can be captured.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you still take photos?
Oh yeah. So, I love taking photos and to be honest, most of the photos I take are on my smartphone.
Okay. So,
I
okay.
do still have my camera though, but when I started at the farm, I was like, "Oh my gosh, there's so much beauty around me. Like, look at this purple cauliflower I'm growing. Like, it's beautiful." Like, I still have that eye where I'm just like, "Oh wait, I have to stop. I have to take a picture of this because this composition is perfect right now. The lighting is great." And I stop and take a picture. My phone is full of farm pictures.
I don't think any photographer shames the smartphone photographer because
Yeah.
it's about what you have access to. The big question that people have when you start getting into photography, the
Hmm.
question is always, do I pack it? do I
Right.
take it? So you go on vacation, it's like, how much gear do I take? How you start thinking ahead, like, okay, what are the events that we're going to be doing, like activities we're going to be doing while we're there? What kind of scenery am I going to be seeing that are unique? And
Mm-hmm.
anytime you go anywhere, you have to decide, am I taking my camera or not? So I don't
Mm-hmm.
think anybody really shames the smartphone photographer these days because it's really about the output and the creativity. And if
Yes.
that's your choice, if that is your tool that you're using to capture memories, I don't think people shame anyone. I don't think
Yeah.
anyone's here because the photography community is creatives, they're artists. And so I think artists love supporting other artists regardless of your level of proficiency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And even like at work, like I this year, because I'm taking pictures outside, there's, the sun, it's hard sometimes to see like what is happening on my screen. So I was like, I'm gonna bring my DSLR to work. Like, why not? I'm just gonna bring that and have it and I can run out and take pictures. And that's not how it panned out this year because it's very busy. I don't have enough time in the week for what I do. But also it's just like I'm here, I'm cutting flowers right now. I'm gonna take this cool picture right now instead of like being like, I'm gonna run into my office and get my
Yeah.
camera and yeah.
I think that's
So
the right answer. Did you end up getting a job in photojournalism?
yeah, so as I was getting ready to graduate, actually my junior year, I had a moment of realization. We had this assignment. It was an election year. We had an assignment. We were supposed to find a polling place, stand, appropriately outside of it, and see if anyone coming out wanted to give us a quick little, like, hey, why are you excited to vote? Like, what brought you here? And do a picture. And so my friend and I teamed up because this sounded terrifying to me because talking to people is scary when you have social anxiety. And I was a wreck the whole time. I was like, I cannot do this. I do not want to talk to this person. Like, this person doesn't know me. It was just, oh my God. And she was like, how are you going to be a photojournalist if you can't do this? And I was like, whoa, first of all, rude. And then in my head, I was like, oh, wait, yeah, you're right. I don't like talking to strangers. I like being kind of hidden and taking pictures that I want to take without that pressure of like, oh, pardon me, ma'am. Like, can I talk to you right now? And the thing is everybody we talked to that day was super friendly, was like, yeah, sure, I'll give you a couple quotes. No problem. But the idea of it and the practice of it just gave me so much anxiety that I was like, I can't do this. So when I was getting ready to graduate, I was like, well, I kind of like to go into like the nonprofit world. I would like to work for a nonprofit doing photography, marketing for them. And this was back in the day when you still sent out like physical like portfolios. Like I was mailing CDs of like my portfolio on it to random companies and
Yeah.
nonprofits. I did not hear back from a single one of those. But what I did also do was apply for AmeriCorps. And in 2012, that was how you got a job after college.
Yeah.
You joined AmeriCorps. And so I ended up getting an AmeriCorps Vista position at the food bank in Pittsburgh, which is where I went to school. And that kind of just put me on the like food trajectory for my career. I knew I wanted to go to grad school, and originally I was looking at an international media program at American University in DC. I even visited the school. I was like, this sounds great. Still kind of like lying to myself about what I am actually capable of. And then I started working at the food bank. Someone else who worked there had just finished a grad program at a school in Pittsburgh, and it was the program was food studies. And I was like, interesting. Like, I like the sound of that. I applied, I got in, I did my year of AmeriCorps, and then I started grad school, and I was still working at the food bank while I was in school. And yeah, it just kind of shaped where I went. I was really into like the food policy and food access worlds. Like, how can I make a change? How can I tell people's stories? Still is always in my head, telling stories, but it kind of even veered more from that to where I am now.
The question of if you don't like talking to random people, how are you ever going to be a journalist? Was that now in hindsight very helpful? Or would you say that deterred you from possibly pursuing something that you could have gotten more adjusted to and comfortable with?
Yeah, I view it as helpful. Like, it was rude to begin with.
Sure.
I did not appreciate it.
At the
But
least, it
like,
was rude.
yes, I can look back on that now and be like, I don't know, like, maybe with the amount of anxiety medication I'm on now, like, I could have persevered and gotten through it, but I don't know that I would have ever been comfortable enough to make a career out of that and not just hate my life and be a ball of anxiety all the time.
That's fair. That's fair. And especially maybe like if you feel like that's really who you are, in some cases, there's no need to push yourself out of your comfort zone if it's just not something that's going to bring you joy. If it's always going to feel like
Right.
this is not my natural state, and pushing against that is going to just be ongoing discomfort. When I can find something else that speaks better to me.
Exactly. Yeah. Even my food journey has taken many, many turns and has shifted a lot from where I started. So like I said, I was at the food bank. I loved working there for the most part in the beginning. I planned in my head, it's just like, yeah, I'm going to work in the food access world because this means a lot to me. I really connect with the mission. I fully believe that food is a human right. Like, I hate the policies that we have in this country. I hate that food access is such a like crazy thing in this country. It's ridiculous. But I also hated working for a very large nonprofit that was very bureaucratic. The food bank does great work, but it's just there's so many hands at the top that don't necessarily like it got to a point where I was like, we all want to put ourselves out of a job, right? Like, I don't want to have to provide food for people for the rest of their lives or my career or whatever. Like, I would love if we were out of a job, if that food banks were not needed. And I didn't feel like most people at the organization or in the food banking world really connected with that. It's not that they wanted to like make sure people were always hungry, but it's just there wasn't enough of that kind of activism for
Yeah.
me. And I just really stopped connecting with it. I also ended up like switching departments several times, and I was working in food drives, and I did not like that because many reasons. I could get on a soapbox about that.
Well,
I
I
wrote a
mean,
thesis about that,
oh,
but
that's interesting.
yes.
Is it
Yes.
available online?
No.
Then I will not be
Pretty sure
linking it below.
I still have a copy of it somewhere, probably. Yeah.
It's interesting that you describe this, you're mission driven, you're thinking about this big, huge picture of it's a Band-Aid on the problem. We're addressing the
Yeah.
symptoms, but not the underlying illness or problem systemically.
Mhm.
And so it's actually quite interesting to consider this notion of an organization who's doing really good work, focusing on the problem at hand. But ultimately, you're really just addressing the symptoms. And most people, I imagine, in this organization and many others are focused on addressing the symptoms. That's their job. That's their job
Right.
description, as opposed to pulling back and looking at the huge picture and saying, well, what are we doing to really move the needle on the underlying problem as a whole? And I don't know if you have a lot of control over that, and maybe it doesn't even matter. But if the feeling is, I'm just not feeling like we're doing good enough work because of all that, it could probably grow exhausting. And that's probably the same for almost every nonprofit organization doing great work. Everyone's got a
Yeah.
job, and they're doing their job.
Yeah. And it's hard because I think the problem solvers and the activists aren't necessarily talking to the, Band-Aid appliers, the first aid people who are just kind of trying to fix the symptoms right now. They're not connected in any way. I still see that, there's the very large Feeding America organization, which is the umbrella organization for all the food banks and then all the food pantries and soup kitchens. And it's just like, are they talking to the food policy councils? Like, where is that intersection and how are they impacting each other? And do they even care about impacting each other? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe there's no answer. I don't know if this was conscious or not, but as a photojournalist, you're thinking about the human story behind whatever's just in front of you. And so getting into nonprofit work actually makes sense to me, where you're seeing a bigger picture and you're feeling a deeper understanding of the individual, this sort of empathy. You're always putting yourself in the situations to be on the front lines of the story of the individual and the human being. How did you kind of weave some of your mindset skills even into the food bank from your photojournalism background?
Yeah, so I had several different roles at the food bank. My favorite one was working with what was called the farm stand program. And at that time, we had throughout like the Pittsburgh region, I think it was like 12 to 15 different locations identified that were food deserts. So there's no access, easy access to a grocery store in these neighborhoods. And we set up farms, partnered with local organizations in those communities to set up farm stands where we were bringing fresh produce from local farmers. And it was, very competitively priced. We took food stamps, we took WIC coupons, FMNP vouchers, Farmers Market Nutrition Program, to have these people have access to fresh local food at a price they could afford. And I loved that job. I loved going out to the farm stands. Each day they were running and talking. Weirdly enough, talking to the people, mostly the people who were running the farm stand, like the community organization, not necessarily the shoppers. But I loved being there and seeing that impact. And I don't think I ever took like many or any photos there. I can't remember. But that was always in my head. Like, these are the people we are impacting, and I get to be here seeing it. I get to go back and share what today was like with my coworkers, how our impact actually made a difference. And that really resonated with me. I really liked that position.
What stood out?
It was taking a little bit of a solution. We were impacting not just the people who were there purchasing the food, but we were impacting the food system as a whole in the region, because we were distributing food to people who need it, but it was food from local farmers who needed an outlet for this food, needed an income from the food they were growing. So we, as the food bank, were providing that income to the farmers, and we were also providing the food at an affordable price to the people who needed it. It felt like truly the whole system was connected and working. It always comes back to my anxiety. Like, my skills in program management and making sure that people who are buying a product from you or doing whatever with you or who you work for are very well informed and don't have a lot of questions. Like, I'm trying to make sure that like my customers who come pick up their CSA baskets every week do not feel anxious doing so. I'm like, here's where you park, here's where you go in, here's what you say. It's a weird kind of skill, but it's something that I've done like at many of my jobs, where I'm like, here's the most information possible, so you don't have any questions. Also, then I don't have to answer your questions.
Well, that's also helpful for you.
Yeah.
You say weird skill. Well, I would argue it's a really, really valuable skill. I'll tell you why, because I think if I had to pick one skill that is most important across the board, no matter what you're doing, so long as it's, not siloed by yourself, if you're not kind of independently sitting in a small room with no windows and kind of insular like that, if you are ever interacting with anybody else, colleagues, coworkers, outside clients, customers, whomever, my position is that the most important skill is effective communication. I'm saying that to commend you, but also to say that, yeah, it's a weird thing to highlight, but when you break it down, it's not weird at all. In fact, it's a huge asset, resource, and strength of yours.
Thanks.
Yeah, this is why this is a therapy show where I bring people on and I compliment them so they feel better about themselves and start their day off on a good foot.
Great. My ego feels patted. Thank you.
Good. Sorry, check that off. I gave a compliment. Let's talk about, from the food bank, where did you go?
Yes. So Also at the food bank, I had a moment of realization where all of a sudden I was being asked to work more fundraising by doing cold calls to wealthy people to ask them for money. And I was like, no, 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 no. This is not what I want to do. This is back to the talking to people I don't know. How did I get here?
Yeah, you beat me
I
to
tried
it.
to make sure this wasn't happening. So I was just like, I can't do this. This is not what I want to do. I'm frustrated with the organization, the bureaucracy of everything. And I ended up putting in my 2 weeks notice at one point, and I didn't even have a job to go to. I was just like, I can't be here anymore. I am a ball of anxiety every morning coming to work. Like, I do not enjoy this in the least anymore. I knew at that point, like, I need to do something where I'm not just sitting at a desk and pretending I'm doing something important. Like, I need to feel like I'm making a difference somehow. And so I applied for a couple of jobs. I applied for a job at Whole Foods. I was like, I'll work at the grocery store. Like, I just want to be active. I want to be not stationary sitting at a desk.
Your
Actually,
your inspiration
oh,
is really the thesis and premise of the entire movie Office Space. It's like what are
I've never seen that movie.
oh my gosh, Karen, you got to see this movie. It's funny, but it's serious too. It's actually a very meaningful movie that is hilarious, and it's often maybe misconceived as a silly, stupid movie,
Mhm.
but it's really commentary on our society and Western culture. It's all about like, what am I doing? What am I adding? What value am I adding to the world sitting at this desk? Like literally me. I don't mean the company. Company's probably
Mhm.
doing something that's helpful or beneficial to somebody.
Right.
People are feeding their families with the paycheck that they have. But ultimately, what am I doing? Why am I here?
Yeah.
And you should see the movie, but it's important to get to a point where you realize, you ask yourself the question. You say, is this still working for me? And if not, what's next?
Right. And so, yeah, I asked that question. I quit my job. I got the job at Whole Foods, but I did not take it because I had also applied for a job at this very small business, like startup in Pittsburgh. It was called Farm Truck Foods. I was like, love the sound of that.
Yeah.
And it was basically, a box truck, I don't know, 18 feet, I don't remember, but we had fridges on it and we aggregated food from local farmers and then went to different stops with this food. It was very similar to what I was doing at the food bank with the farm stand program, just a little less charitable, I guess. But we were going to like office parks and they would come out and buy their fresh produce at lunch and different neighborhood stops. And I really, really liked that. I was like, this is great because there is a perfect balance of me being active on my feet, like talking to people, which is weird because I don't like that, but like talking to people coming up about like these eggs and why these eggs are different than the eggs you'll get at the grocery store. It's the education piece that I was missing. I
Why are they
like the
different? Why don't you
education.
educate us here? Why are they different?
Okay, so I did a whole project on eggs in grad school. There are different classifications for eggs, and there are terms that are regulated by the USDA, and there are terms that are not. So when you are at the grocery store, if you're looking for the highest quality eggs, you want to look for the term pasture raised. That means those chickens are out in the grass, they are eating bugs and grass and whatever the heck is out there. And that is a very healthy diet for them. Chickens are omnivores. They want to eat it all. And that is going to change the quality and the nutrition of the egg. So if you've ever done this, which maybe you haven't, you get an egg from a grocery store, probably the cheapest one. Even the ones that say like cage free, that is not what you think it is. You crack that egg, you crack an egg from a local farm. The yolk color should be noticeably different. The grocery store egg is going to have a very pale yellow yolk, and the pasture raised or farm fresh egg from your local farm is going to have a much darker, richer kind of orange color in the yolk. And it does change the nutrition. It also tastes a lot better. Like, I don't always buy into the like, oh, like this will taste good, like buy this, but this is actually true. So if you are just feeding chickens grain, that color in the yolk is not going to be as rich. If you buy eggs that say cage-free on them, all that means is that the chickens have access to outdoors. So they could be in a huge, like, I don't remember what they call it. Well, we'll call it a coop, but it's like a huge room full of chickens, like butt to butt, like they don't have any room. And somewhere in that space is a small little door that they can go outside.
Yeah.
Most of the chickens, if the door is over here and the chickens are all the way on the other, they're never going to go through that door. Never. They won't make it over there.
That's where the term bird brain comes from.
Yes. And that's all that cage free means. Like it's all marketing. It's all gimmicky.
Yeah.
So yeah,
repeat,
sorry, that's my little
what are we
egg
looking for
tangent.
again? You said pasteurized.
Pasture raised.
Pasture raised.
Yes.
All right, good.
Organic doesn't mean anything. It just means they were fed organic feed. Like it doesn't mean anything.
What about free range?
Free range is a little tricky. I think that's a term that is not regulated by the USDA. So that's one that can really just mean anything.
All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to link below the website that will give you all of the USDA information on this, so you can understand the different terminology. I absolutely believe that the better you treat your sources, the better the outcome is going to be. And so, and I don't want to get political, but I have a hard time witnessing how some animals are treated, even if the goal is that they will be slaughtered for our consumption and nutrition. I get that, but they should be
still
treated
respect
well.
the animal.
Yeah,
Like it's still a living thing. You are responsible for taking care of and giving it a good life, even if that end goal is to slaughter the animal, butcher it for meat. That meat is going to taste also a lot better if that animal was not constantly stressed out and confined and fed just like food that it doesn't really digest that well.
That's right. My grandparents had a farm up in northwest corner of Illinois on the Iowa border, and every year they housed a new herd of cattle, and their goal was just to take care of the cattle, feed the cattle, let them graze and roam. They had the season, they were taken out, and that's okay. But when you have a connection, firsthand experience, and I don't mean going to the zoo, that's a whole separate. It's a whole separate set of problems. But when you have that kind of experience, I think it changes your. Hopefully, I hope it leaves an impression on you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a pro tip right there.
Yes. I really liked interacting with people and educating them about why they should buy this food I was trying to sell. Now, unfortunately, that business went out of business not too long after I started working there. I think it was maybe about 6 months, unfortunately. So, womp womp.
Yeah. Is that a commentary, though, on the challenges, the difficulty? I mean, first of all, the food industry, as we know, is already really hard, very tight margins, very difficult lifestyle and work. And then when you try to do it even more responsibly, it's probably just ratchets it up that level of challenge and difficulty. Is that, did it contribute to why it closed?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because at the end of the day, what people want more than anything is convenience.
Yeah.
So we had our little truck full of fresh food, but we didn't have, bags of rice and those other kind of foods that you can really only get from a grocery store or a market. So we were adding an extra stop into their like weekly grocery shopping, and people don't like that. People like to go one place. As a old mom of 2 children who works full time, I get it. I like to go one place. But that is kind of where I think society is really making this local food movement hard, is because not everyone buys into it, that like it's okay to shop more than one place. It's okay to go to the farmer's market to get all your produce and your meat, your cheese, your eggs, and then supplement with what you need at the grocery store. Nobody has time for that. Nobody wants to admit that they have time for that.
Maybe that's the next problem that we solve. And by the way, the solution is not necessarily that you have your groceries delivered to your house. That is a convenience, but it's also you're offsetting the convenience with, other pollutions and other problems. And I'm not holier than thou. I subscribe to a lot of these things. I'm a consumer myself. I get it. Ethics, for many people, and myself included, the line that is drawn is often at convenience or cost. It's like I'd much rather buy that grass-fed meat from that CSA, and it's like $25 a pound instead of whatever the grocery store price is. And I get that. And I don't have the solution. I'm not here to try to like pretend like I do.
This is kind of what got me on the path I am now, is I started working for a farmer-owned cooperative in Pittsburgh that had been around for 20 years. So I managed our CSA program, which was we had like 800 members, and ran a CSA box from mid-spring to mid-fall. And then also we did a winter one. It was like all year round. This happened just all the time, all year. And then we also had like a retail website where people could shop a la carte for their produce. We had everything. We worked with 30 different local producers. So we had fresh fruits and vegetables. We had flours. We had grains. We had cheese. We had eggs. We had bread. We had meat. We had a lot of it.
Describe what a CSA, what does that stand for?
Yes, so CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture, and the best way I describe it to people these days is it's essentially a subscription service. At its like roots, CSAs, and this I think I could go on a tangent here, but I think is missing from the CSA rhetoric now. Farmers needed upfront money to purchase their seeds for the season. They didn't necessarily always have that influx of cash in the winter when they need to purchase seeds. So the community, the consumers, were then making an investment in the farm. The farmer said, hey, if you give me this $500 investment, I will return your investment with fresh fruits and vegetables for however many weeks during the growing season. And, if the year is bad, it's a bad growing season, Mother Nature is being rude, like you don't get as much return on your investment. But also if it's a great growing season, you get so much return. You get more than you put in. And so that's kind of where it started. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So see, exactly. It's because nobody talks about that.
Right,
Nobody
so
makes that connection.
I hadn't actually ever learned about the origin of this going back to the farming seasons and investing into that. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. See, educating. So I had my son at that point. He had just turned 1, and I got laid off with COVID. I was like, I'm just gonna do the stay-at-home thing right now. Like that seems what's best for our family. And then our family grew, and we moved from Pittsburgh to Chicago as a stay-at-home mom for 3 years. And I was ready to not be a stay-at-home mom anymore. I needed to do work outside of the house. I don't remember how I heard of Wagner Farm, but I had been there once before. And I was like, well, let me look at their website. And they had this position open. And it was titled something different than what my actual title is. I think it was like farm sales coordinator. And I was like, I can do that. I'm not going to lie, I did not read the description too closely. I thought it was going to be very similar to the job I had been doing in Pittsburgh. I'm managing these programs. I'm making sure produce is getting into the hands of interested consumers. I went in for an interview. And they were like, yeah, it's about like, you'd be in the field, like outside 90% of the time. I'm like, okay.
Hey, you said you didn't want a desk job in a stuffy office. So.
I know. It actually, like, it is the perfect balance for me. And they were like, so like, what growing experience do you have? It's like, I've grown things before. Plants need water and sunlight. Like,
I've got an arrow garden in my backyard.
Yeah, right.
Bathroom.
Yeah. It's like, I know things. And they really liked the program management side that I had, those skills of managing people who were interested in the product and getting them the product. They liked that. The marketing skills I had, the kind of like small nonprofit skills I had. And so for some reason, they brought me in for a second interview. I wowed them, apparently. And they were like, hey, you want the job? And I was like, I guess I do.
It's a perfect example. This isn't always going to work, but in this case, not reading the job description empowered you to pursue that position. Had you read it, maybe you wouldn't have been as interested, but also they didn't necessarily put in the job description all the things that you were bringing to the table, and they couldn't have predicted. But once you guys met, this opportunity to really see what the position could be, it was mutually beneficial for someone like you to move into this position. I hope hiring managers out there, and your husband Mike knows this very well, as being somebody who is in the recruiting space and as an influencer online, giving a lot of advice to people, is that hopefully both sides of that relationship, that dating phase, are open-minded and saying, here's what I was hoping for, and here's what I have in front of me, this opportunity. How is this going to work? Because I think this is more than we expected, and that's a great thing. And maybe this person doesn't fit so perfectly into this position as we had written the job description, but is that a bad thing? Or is this a real opportunity that we couldn't have predicted?
Yeah, and I really sold myself as someone who is a quick learner. And it's true, I am a quick learner. At any job I've had, you give me a technology, a CRM, like I look at it, I learn it, I understand it, and like that's that. Then I'm an expert. So I told him like I am a quick learner. Like I am not afraid of getting my hands dirty. Like I actually like kind of want that, like both literally and figuratively. So yeah, I started being a farmer in 2023, and here I am. So, Wagner Farm is a historic working farm that is owned by the Glenview Park District. So, it also is technically a public park. The grounds are open every day, 365 days a year from dawn to dusk. There's a big building that houses the museum. We have a gift shop, restrooms. That's where my greenhouse is. We have a milking parlor where we do milking demonstrations. We have an ice cream shop in there. So not only is it an outside thing, but it's an inside thing as well. And the farm is kind of split up into two spaces. So on the south side of the farm is the historic side of the farm. There's the original farmhouse, the barn, all these existing buildings that were there in the 1900s, the early ones, not like the 90s, but that are still standing. And we have costumed interpreters out there during the busy month, just, doing what they would do. Our time period is the 1920s. So they're hanging laundry, they're working in their little garden, they're in the farmhouse baking something. That is not my side of the farm. My side of the farm is the modern side of the farm, where we are using modern equipment, and we mostly on that side of the farm is our growing operation. So we grow on about 2.5 to 3 acres of land, and it's we would be considered like a diversified vegetable operation. So we grow about 150 different varieties of fruits, vegetables, and flowers, mostly for our CSA program, but then also we use stuff to cook with in the kitchen, and then we sell those baked items, and then we also do retail sales as well.
Does the farm have an actual goal?
I think it's like education, which again, like it's something I have been like working on with what limited like power and resources I have as the farmer. People really like learning, even if they don't quite realize that. So we do a lot of field trips. Spring, summer, fall, there's children there constantly on a field trip. What we're kind of missing right now, in my opinion, is the just general public education. So the historic side is pretty good. Like, okay, like there might be someone out there who you can ask questions to, and like things kind of make sense a little bit. And then you get to the north side of the farm, people are like, what am I supposed to do now? And then they walk into my field, and then I chase after them like an old man, like, get off my field.
I've done that.
Yeah.
Got some nice pictures in the cornfields.
Oh my gosh.
I'm terrible.
Yeah, so there's a little bit missing there, because the education part is there on the historic side of the farm, but not necessarily the modern. And I've been trying to work on integrating that more, because again, that is what I really enjoy, educating people. I was planting garlic a couple weeks ago, and I was in like one of our fenced in like fields, and I was right on the fence, like planting it in a raised bed, and people walking by are like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm planting garlic. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah, it starts as a clove. Like you take your biggest cloves from your previous harvest, you save them, and then that's what you plant in the fall. So you plant your garlic in our zone, you plant your garlic in the fall, you plant the cloves early enough before the first frost so that the roots can get established, and then you have your frost, and the garlic kind of sits cozy and snug all winter because you cover it with a lot of straw. And then in the spring, you'll see the garlic start to shoot out. By end of July, you'll have big bulbs of garlic that you can then harvest. And people were amazed. They're like, what?
They're just
I was like,
walking
oh,
by
yeah.
and you're suddenly they're finding themselves in the middle of an academic lecture.
Exactly, yeah.
So
Like, here's how it happens.
if someone's approaching you and asking you questions about what you're doing, and you're now talking to this stranger on the street, how is that different for you, maybe emotionally or logistically, from the photojournalism where there was an insecurity and maybe anxiety about having to talk to random strangers?
Because they need something from me. I don't need something from them. So they are approaching me. I'm not like, oh, hey, I'm planting garlic over here. Want to learn about it? They're approaching me and saying, hey, what's going on? Like, what are you doing? How can I learn from you? And that's what makes it different. And maybe it's like an ego thing because all of a sudden I'm like, I'm the expert. Like,
Right.
obviously, you need to learn from me. But it does make it different when it's them approaching me and needing something from me.
Is some of the anxiety in photojournalism that you're worried about which questions to ask, how to ask them, how is it going to come off, or what's the best question? Because you don't have, you and I are sitting here for an hour and 11 minutes and 46 seconds at this point. And even if I don't have the best questions, we're going to get to some interesting conversation, and we have that luxury. I have that luxury as interviewing you organically.
Right.
And in this case, organic means something completely different, but than farming. But in a situation where you're approaching somebody on the street, you need an economy and an efficiency of your words and time, because you need to get to the point quickly and get a good soundbite, and you need to get a good video or image and tie it all together. Is that part of the anxiety of knowing what questions to ask?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the fact, like, there's also just the unknown with that. Like, how are they going to react to this? Are they going to spit in my face? Like, there's also a safety thing, especially as a woman. Like, I can't just go up to anybody. Maybe other women feel like they can, but I cannot. Just, it's not something I can ever do. And it's just like, are they going to yell at me? Are they going to be mean? Are they going to be really happy and excited? And then it turns into a totally fun interaction. Like, I just don't know, and I don't like not knowing.
Yeah. For anyone tuning in, I will link the Wagner Farm website below. You should check it out because it's rare. I don't say that lightly. It is rare that you find a place like Wagner Farm that is unbelievable in its education, in the quality of its landscape, the aesthetics of it, and also a place where you can bring your kids. It's only about, if you're in the city of Chicago, it's anywhere between 15 and 35 minutes away, maybe an hour if you're on the south side of Chicago. A bias for the north side, go Cubs. But it's really accessible. It's about 10 minutes away from my house. And so we used to bring our kids all the time because it's free to just walk in. It's hard to find places for your kids to like hang out and free. There's livestock, there's real animals. They can go look at a horse and cows and hogs and goats and things. And
No goats.
no goats. Sheep. Was there sheep?
Yeah, we have lambs.
Lambs.
In the summer, and chickens.
So one of my favorite memories being at Wagner Farm was a wonderful opportunity to teach my child natural consequences. He was probably about 1.5 years old, 2 years old. And we're up against the coop, and he's putting his fingers through the fence. And I was like, don't do that.
Yeah.
And he keeps poking, putting his finger through. I was like, chicken's going to peck you. It's going to bite your finger. And he kept doing it. And the chicken came over and pecked his finger. He was fine. Obviously, he was a little shocked, but it was, I was hysterical because it was like such a great natural consequence. Like, I told you, and he did it.
Yeah.
It's a great memory. Wagner Farm is a gem. It's a true gem. And if you're in the Chicagoland area, take some time on a weekend before it gets too cold this season or go next season. But go check it out. It's awesome.
This was such a career jump for me. If you asked me even 5 years ago, like, would you ever be working on a farm, growing things out in the 95-degree weather, like harvesting kale? Like, no, absolutely not. Like, that is not something I'm good at. I don't want to do that. And so, like you said, it was probably really good that I did not closely pay attention to the job description because I probably wouldn't have applied for it otherwise. And this job has been the best job I've ever had. It is exactly like what I've always wanted, this balance of like being out and active and doing things, as well as like having some time to sit at a desk on my computer and get things done there.
It's a nice variety of different
Yes.
kind of styles of work
Yes.
and tasks.
Yeah. And like this job has like just given me new passion. I don't know that I ever would have been like, yeah, growing food, growing flowers. And the freedom I've had at this job to kind of explore what interests me and what things I want to grow has been really great. Like, we just opened this summer our U cut flower field, and that was amazing. Like, I'm cutting flowers out there every day and making arrangements, but we also had it open a couple times this summer to the public to come out. They pay a set price for a bucket and they cut their own flowers. They loved that. Like, it was great. And I'm like, who would have thought I'd be a flower farmer? Like, not me.
I couldn't have predicted that, but it makes sense. I mean, everything you've
Yeah.
done has a story behind it. And when I can show up to someone's house or even bring home some flowers,
Mm-hmm.
or I could go support a local farm, do it myself, and have a story behind it too.
Yeah.
You're still doing the journalism part in an
Mm-hmm.
unconventional way. Maybe it's not
Yeah.
photojournalism, maybe it's not documentary style, but you are impacting individuals' lives, and I think you're educating people through actual experience. And that's the IRL version of journalism, is that
Yeah.
you're actively engaging other people in this experience.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Given your natural strengths and your learned skills, of which you have many, what job might you excel at, but are also exceedingly overqualified for?
I don't know that I'm exceedingly overqualified for anything. Like, I was talking to Mike about this last night. I was like, I guess maybe working at McDonald's. And I was like, I don't even know if I'd be exceedingly overqualified for that. That seems really stressful.
Yeah.
Uh,
You're also talking to a lot of strangers.
yeah, yeah. Just like, I don't know about that. Handling money, giving change, doing math. No, thank you.
Yeah. Time
Um,
sensitivity, a lot of pressure.
yeah. Ooh, yeah. See, I don't know. But yeah, I'm a lifelong learner. And a couple of years ago, I went back to school again, to get a certificate in baking and pastry. I've always loved baking. It's again back to the food. Food connects us all. I have many fond memories of learning to bake with my mom and my grandma. My grandma would do baking lessons with me like once a week over the summer. I have just a very strong connection to feeding people yummy things. And I'm pretty good at it. I will say I am not good at making things that look really, really pretty. I'm never going to be like a sugar cookie person. You're like, hey, I want a taco sugar cookie. That's not me. No, 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 no. But I can make you a cookie that tastes really damn good. I can make you a really good cake, a really good pie. And so, like, I would not love to like work in a bakery because that's again, 4 a.m., you're up. I just would love something where like I can bake for people and they tell me how happy it makes them to then make me feel really good. And
I can
I
see you
would be
having
really good at that.
I can see you having like a homestand. That's
Yeah.
your overqualification of like, the proverbial or literal lemonade stand that a kid
Hmm.
might run, but you
Yeah.
have it for baked goods, and maybe they don't look amazing, but they're gonna knock your socks off. They taste great.
Exactly. Yes.
I like that.
I mean, my dream has always been like a coffee shop that has a nice, cozy vibe, very welcoming, but also like homemade, like baked goods that, I bake. Someone else does the coffee. I love coffee. I don't know anything about making lattes, but I do the baking and I'm there and I'm bringing the vibes that people want.
Yeah. Snacks.
Exactly. Lots of sugar.
That's good. You can't go wrong.
Yes.
Well, Karen, thank you. This is a fantastic conversation. Super fun, interesting, insightful. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for giving us your time, your experience, your skills, and advice. There's been some really great pieces of advice that I can't wait to highlight later when we publish this. So thank you for being here.
Well, thank you so much. I'm glad I was interesting, and I was happy to talk about myself.
That's good. I like that. That's a great way to end it.
Yes.
I want to thank Mike Peditto for recommending his wife, Karen, as today's guest. And to you, our listeners, for joining us on this episode of Transferable Skills. Remember, the skills you've gained can take you anywhere. Until next time, keep exploring those transferable skills.